St. Eligius represents a cornerstone upon which a new prosperity will be built, a new spirit. This structure will be more than just mortar and bricks, but a place of compassion and comfort for the suffering.
Do you know what people call this place? Not St. Eligius, St. Elsewhere. A dumping ground, a place you wouldn't want to send your mother-in-law.
Let's say you have an accident of some kind. What happens next? You call an ambulance.
And bribe the driver to take you to Boston General instead of this place.
We're friendly.
We're doctors at St. Eligius.
St. Elsewhere? I was forced to have my kid in that mortician's delight. Hey, everybody! These two butchers work at St. Elsewhere. Welcome to Cheers, Doctors Jekyll and Hyde.
Hello, I'm film historian Tony Maeda.
And I'm Brad Shreve, who's just a guy who likes movies.
We discuss movies and television from Hollywood's golden age. We go behind the scenes and share our opinions, too.
And of course, being the average guy, my opinions are the ones that matter.
As does your self-delusion. Welcome to Going Hollywood.
Tony, I was kind of reluctant to suggest this series. I felt like we had to because it was, the term is overused, but it was groundbreaking in so many ways. But it never was a huge hit. It never reached, higher than 47th in the ratings, I think it was?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, it was always low in the ratings, but it changed my life.
Did it really?
Yes. Do you want to know how it changed my life?
Yeah, in what way, Brad?
Because most of the series ran Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock. And every Wednesday night, I turned down when people said, let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let's go to this. Now, granted, this is back before the days of Netflix where a whole series drops in a day. It's a whole different world. I swore to myself, I will never, ever get into a series again where that happens. And I will say, except for a few exceptions where I was watching with somebody else, I stuck with shows like CSI, where, there's a background story, but for the most part, everything's wrapped up in a bow. You can watch one episode and never watch it for 2 more years and watch another episode. So I stayed with that.
So wait, so what you're saying is that you didn't want to miss, because of the serialized nature of the episodes, you didn't want to miss the episode? Is that what you're saying? Or any episode?
Yeah, I had to be there every Wednesday night to see it. I was not going to miss an episode. I loved the show too much. And I was just so addicted to it, I had to see it.
Do you think we should tell people what the show is that you were so addicted to?
Well, they probably know from the intro, but we're talking about St. Elsewhere.
That's true. Well, here's something interesting. Wednesday nights, huh? This is funny. This is, I always like to tell people this. This is Brad's baby. Brad wanted to do this. This is Brad's show. I love St. Elsewhere. I'm not saying that I would not want to do St. Elsewhere, but my experience with St. Elsewhere is much different than yours because the years that it ran from October of 1982 to May of 1988 coincide exactly with my high school / college years. And I was doing many other things during my high school and college years than staying home and watching St. Elsewhere. Now, that didn't stop me from VCRing the Golden Girls, but still, so my experience with this series is not nearly as thorough as yours. So we're kind of switching hats here. I'm going to let you be the TV historian for this one, and I'm going to be the normal guy who just likes to watch TV.
There you go. I was only a toddler when this came out. So
no, it's true, yeah. I was Mensa in high school and college, if that wasn't clear. Yeah, very, very young, very young. So, but yes.
I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are now that we did a deep dive. We watched 4 episodes. 2 were part of a 2-parter. So it's kind of one big episode. So I'm interested as we get into these to see what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah, my thoughts are interesting. I'm interested to see what my thoughts are.
Yes.
Because I'm flying blind here. No, I'm not. Of course, I'm not. I would never do that. But I mean, I do have, I'm not ignorant of this show, obviously. I love this series. I had seen it. But when you said you wanted to do St. Elsewhere, you wanted to talk about St. Elsewhere, I would realize, wow, I have not seen St. Elsewhere in many, many years. Now, this is funny because, there are shows from that time period, such as Cheers, such as The Golden Girls, as I just said, which I've seen over and over again over the years. I haven't seen St. Elsewhere over and over again, which is kind of interesting, because it was such a groundbreaking show and such an awarded show. I mean, yes, you said, it never got higher than 47, but it won 13 Emmys. It was nominated for 62. So, we're up in Mary Tyler Moore land here. No coincidence. But I'm surprised that it's not. I know there was going to be a movie at one point, and
that fell through.
A reboot. Yeah, so I think that it's kind of interesting that this show, though groundbreaking and a real touchstone for TV in the '80s, is not that much brought up again. It's not revived as much as I thought it would be.
Well, it actually, vanished from TV altogether, or from any streaming service. Mm-hmm. I was watching interviews with some of the surviving cast members. They were doing these during COVID on YouTube, and they said, we stopped hearing from people, and then it got on Hulu, and all of a sudden the letters started coming in again. Yeah,
well, it's a wonderful show. It's Hill Street Blues in a Hospital.
Yes, though I think it's better. But yes,
I do too.
Is.
I do too.
Yeah.
I heard that. That's how I heard it was. But I always thought that St. Elsewhere was a pretty good title because that's where most of the audience was during its primetime run. Elsewhere.
Yes, they were. So do you want to tell people what St. Elsewhere means?
Well, St. Elsewhere, basically, that's obviously not the name of the hospital. But St. Elsewhere is kind of like a catch-all phrase. In the pilot, doesn't Dr. Craig say it's called St. Elsewhere because a Boston media source named it? Is that because they perceived the hospital as a dumping ground, a place where you wouldn't want to send your mother-in-law? Isn't that what Dr. Craig says in the first episode? It's like a catch-all phrase, too, for teaching hospitals in general, right?
That's what I heard. Yes, it is a catch-all for typically any hospital that takes people that other hospitals won't because they necessarily don't have the finance. Like MLK Hospital in LA that they finally closed down because it never got good funding and it was a struggling hospital. Or, as you said, a general rule that are teaching hospitals, which incorrectly are typically considered not as up to par.
And let me just say, too, I'm not going to attempt any more Boston dialects of William Daniels or anybody else. I just had to get that one in there because I do like the way he said your mother-in-law. I can't do a good Boston. Anyway, yes. So it's obviously not called St. Elsewhere for reals. It's called St. Eligius. Do you know what St. Eligius is the patron saint of?
Yes, because it's in one of the episodes that we talked about.
Oh, wah, wah. Yeah, it is.
So you can go ahead and say it, and then you usually pass on to me to say what a movie's about. So I'll let you tell the listener and as well as what the show is about.
Well, St. Eligius is the patron saint of craftsmen, which I thought was interesting. Well, St. Elsewhere is set at a fictional hospital in Boston. It's like a decaying urban hospital.
It's in the South End, anybody that's familiar with that.
The South End, and it was actually Franklin Square housing apartments were actually the real place that stood in for St. Elsewhere. It was the exteriors were. And as I said, it's a slang term used in the medical field to refer to lesser equipped hospitals that serve patients turned away by, more prestigious. It's a dumping ground, as Dr. Craig said.
Yeah.
And it really is like Hill Street Blues in a hospital. And then it's just the interweaving stories, the crossover stories of this group of doctors, this huge cast of doctors dealing with life and death situations. It's like any medical drama that we watch today. It's like Chicago Hope. Does anybody watch Chicago Hope anymore? It's like any of these dramas. It's like Medical Center. It's like any of these dramas in that the personal lives intertwine with the professional lives. There's, what's that one that's on now? Is it still on now?
I haven't watched any really since this one. I've watched a few episodes of Scrubs, but that was some of the cast members of St. Elsewhere showed up on Scrubs.
Scrubs is different.
Yeah.
Oh, the one with Dr. McDreamy.
Oh, that was Chicago Hope, wasn't it?
No. Oh my
I
God,
remember him being referred to. I don't know.
We're pathetic.
You look it up while we talk. But there is one big difference this show had, and that has been true since then. But this show made a big difference in this was not Dr. Kildare. This was not Marcus Welby. Every patient did not live. Every doctor was not perfect. Every doctor did not make the perfect call. Dr. Welby, on his way home, would stop by the hospital to see a patient or to their home to see how they're doing. This was real people. These were doctors that they were, what is it when you're, these are residents that had to sleep in bunk beds, that were exhausted from working days at a time. They made mistakes. People died. The hospital was falling apart around them. They didn't have the best equipment. It wasn't this perfect hospital. And they weren't perfect doctors. And that's what drew me in from the beginning. And that's what held me all the way through, because it wasn't necessarily a hospital drama. This was real people.
It wasn't Grey's Anatomy. I think that's what you're trying to say.
I don't know. I've never watched Grey's Anatomy.
Well, that's Dr. McDreamy's Grey's Anatomy.
Ah, gotcha.
Anyway, yes, I agree with you. That's what's interesting about it. And this just a little background about this. The show was created by Joshua Brand and John Falsey. It was developed by Mark Tinker and John Messias. And among the notable producers of the show were maybe a couple names which might seem familiar to you. Bruce Paltrow, yes, Gwyneth's dad. And the directors included Mark Tinker's brother, John Tinker. Now, I've said Tinker twice now. I'm going to say it one more time. Because yes, indeed, they are all children of the ever dapper, ever handsome, ever far-sighted Grant Tinker. Mr. MTM, which I'm not going to call him Mr. MTM because he was a force in his own right. But yes, and interestingly, we talked about how this show never ranked higher than 47 in the ratings. Now, its first season, it was in danger of being canceled. But the president of NBC had a soft spot for the show and kept it on. And who was that president of NBC, Brad? Do you know?
Oh, I'm drawing a blank. I'm thinking of the different presidents and I'm drawing a blank.
Grant Tinker.
Oh.
Don't you get my joke?
Yes. Okay. I feel like an idiot. Okay.
Daddy kept the show on the air. I think that's wonderful.
I had no idea that he was there at that time. I heard all these other reasons they kept it on, because it did have the audience was small, but it was, first, the demographics were good, and second, it was small, but they were very, very loyal.
They were very loyal. It was the demographic everybody loves, 18 to 34, the young affluent viewers. But it was Grant. It had a little bit of a ratings boost near the end of its first season, but it was still in danger of being canceled. It was in danger of being canceled every season. It didn't get higher than 47. So, this show is not a huge ratings getter, but it was recognized for the brilliant writing, for the brilliant acting, the incredible storytelling techniques that it employed. Did you notice? Have you seen Adolescence on Netflix, the show that's big Emmy? Okay. The gimmick of Adolescence is it's all one shot. Seriously, there are no cuts. It's a big, long play for an hour. And the camera moves all over. And St. Elsewhere does that. St. Elsewhere does all these very long scenes where you're following one character and the camera turns and you follow another character. And I was like, oh my God, this is, having not seen St. Elsewhere in so long and just having recently watched Adolescence, I was like, it's like Adolescence. But of course, it cuts. There are cuts in St. Elsewhere. They didn't film the whole hour at once like they do with Adolescence. But this was all really wonderful, groundbreaking stuff. And so, yes, there was a definite buzz about this show that kept it on. Plus, it dealt with some pretty heavy topics.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the most famous one everybody thinks about is Mark Harmon's character, who was Bobby Caldwell. Okay, we were 5 years into the AIDS epidemic because it was first caught doctors' eyes. The CBC published an article on it in 1981. And other than a TV movie, it was never mentioned on television at all until Mark Harmon's character, Bobby Caldwell, was diagnosed with HIV in the fourth season in 1986.
And can I just say something?
Yes.
Mark Harmon, Denzel Washington, I'll even throw in Ed Begley Jr. Now, one of the episodes you gave me to watch featured these people.
And I'll tell you, Mark Harmon in Scrubs. Oh,
I'm like, what the hell? I love this cast. I love this cast. I love the cast of the episodes that you gave me to watch. But I'm like, he doesn't give me an episode with Denzel. He doesn't give me an episode with, I'll take frickin' Ed Begley Jr.
yeah.
No, let alone Mark Harmon. It's fine. It's fine.
There's a reason why you didn't see one that highlighted Denzel. Yeah, it's amazing he was on all 6 seasons. There's many characters that were killed off or vanished or moved away on this series, especially in the beginning when they could not get the cast was really bloated. He never had a decent storyline, ever. His whole purpose was when Howie Mandel would say something funny, he was the straight man. Or if somebody, one of the other residents was having a difficult time with a diagnosis, he was always a little smarter and would help them. That was his only purpose on the show. He
does
was
do
totally
that.
screwed.
He does do that in the one episode that you gave me. He does. He is very, very smart in these.
He's
episodes,
helping Jack.
Yes, exactly. He is. He's telling him to go down to the basement. We're going to hit ourselves.
But he's totally the straight man with Howie.
Here's the thing about, and then let's talk about this cast. But first, I just want to say, Glory, Denzel's big Academy Award for supporting actor was in '89, so it was after this show was over. So he was doing his work. He was doing his journeyman acting work, and then he did Glory, and the rest is acting history. But let's think of some of these other people. You mentioned Howie Mandel. I always forget Howie's in this, and then I'm like, oh God, of course Howie Mandel's in this. Bonnie Bartlett, who I love Bonnie Bartlett. I love me some Bonnie Bartlett. Christina Pickles. Oh,
I love her.
I love Christina Pickles. You remember her on Friends? She was Monica and Ross's mother on Friends.
Yes, I did.
With Elliot Gould as my, she's so funny on Friends, and she's just as funny here. And I didn't realize she was actually British. She's a British actress.
Yes,
and she's got that slight. In Friends, obviously, she downplays it. She's got just a really wonderful way of speaking. So there's still a fantastic supporting cast in this. But we have the 3 main people. I think we need to talk about the 3 main leading men in this, because to me, that's really what this show is about these 3 main guys. We talk about them?
Yeah, I would go a little longer than that. I mean, I would never want to get into all of them because there were so many people over the series. But yeah, I'll let you talk about the 3 main ones.
I'll talk about the main guys. Okay, we have Ed Flanders,
my favorite,
who plays Dr. Donald Westfall, who was in the show up until the final year. Then he left and came back for the final episode. Right? I'm correct.
He came back
right?
for 2 episodes in the final year.
Year. Okay, he
we'll get into why later.
He played Dr. Donald Westfall, nominated for 5 Emmy Awards. He won in 1983. And of course, he is the one who famously showed his ass on primetime TV.
Yes, the first ass showing.
When he mooned his new boss in the final episode of season 5. And do you know, this is so cute. Do you know what the name of that episode is, Brad?
I know Moon is in it.
It's Moon for the Misbegotten. Because Flanders won a Tony Award in 1974 for Moon for the Misbegotten, which is a Eugene O'Neill play. So he had won the Tony for the play Moon for the Misbegotten. And so the episode in which he actually moons somebody in St. Elsewhere and shows his ass, they named it Moon for the Misbegotten. I thought that was so cute.
Yeah, and this isn't one of the episodes we talked about, but I do want to know that they had a hard time getting through the censors. And finally, when they showed the clip, the censors said there was nothing sexual about that. Okay, We're fine with it.
Yet another groundbreaking thing about this show.
It was, you're an asshole, he showed his ass. It wasn't like... Let's be.
Well, he said,
it was a sexy scene. They would never.
Maybe I'll put this in language you understand, right? And then he drops his pants and shows him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, unfortunately, he dealt with depression his entire life. I'm always doing this. I'm always bringing down this podcast. And he committed suicide in 1995, which is very sad because a very, very gifted, smart, wonderful actor. He was on an episode of Mary Tyler Moore, by the way. He played a priest that Mary thought. A priest who may or not be leaving the priesthood because of Mary Richards. So that's the power of Mary Richards. Anyway, So we have Ed Flanders. We have William Daniels, who was a Broadway and TV actor, probably most famous, at least in acting circles, for playing John Adams in 1776, the musical 1776. But he's also best known to TV fans. Do you know as what, Brad? I know I froze.
Oh, it's Boy Meets World.
Well, but he was also the voice of Kit.
Oh, he was the voice of Kit. Yes.
He was the voice of Kit,
We're showing our age there, yes.
Yes, he won 2 Emmys for this show. He was married to Bonnie Bartlett, who plays his wife on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, God bless, he is still alive as of this recording. He is 98 years old. God bless William Daniels and his impeccable Boston dialect. And then finally, we have the indefatigable Norman Lloyd, who, Norman Lloyd, he played in films back into the 40s. He was in Hitchcock's Saboteur, Spellbound. He was in Limelight, Charlie Chaplin's Limelight. In fact, he had the enviable position of sharing the screen with Chaplin and Keaton in the final scene of Limelight when Chaplin's character dies, because he talked about it all the time. I met Norman Lloyd on more than one occasion. He was a wonderful guy. I would see him at Chaplin retrospectives. He was always talking about Charlie, and he was always talking about he was just a really warm, engaging man, just like Dr. Auslander, just as warm and engaging as Dr. Auslander. Those are the main 3, I think. Don't you feel those are the main 3, and everybody else kind of circles around them?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is Norman Lloyd, who played Dr. Auslander, he had a guest starring role in the first season, and the plan was to kill him off.
Yeah,
because he had cancer. And it was brought up a lot in the first season. The expectation was that they were going to kill him off before the end of the first season. And second season, lo and behold, the rest of the series, he was a main cast member. And it's great. I think he is probably the most underrated of the 3. I think his character was wonderful and easy to love. He wasn't as easy to love as Auslander. I mean, I don't know how anybody could not just want to pick up that man and hold him or be held by him like a grandpa. I don't mean in a sexual way, like a grandpa. But he just, I don't know. He seems like the kind of the grumpy grandpa that when nobody's looking gives you a piece of candy.
Yeah. Well, he lived to be 106.
Yes, he did.
Isn't that amazing? He died in 2021. He made his last film at 100. Yeah, he was quite a guy. He was an incredible guy. He was a lot of fun. And my God, he knew Chaplin. He knew Keaton. It was just, he's astounding. For a film historian, it's catnip. It's catnip.
I do want to say one thing about Ed Flanders before I forget, because he did suffer from addiction and he did suffer from a depression his whole life, which addiction was there, and that's very common with people that have mental disorders. The reason he left at the end of the 5th season was a dual decision. One, because he had become so erratic on the series. They were always concerned about him getting his roles right and whatever. At the same time, he knew he was having a problem, and he wanted to take that time off to take care of himself and his family. I think that says a lot about him.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. No, what a wonderful actor. I mean, just, he has an innate humanity, which is so perfect for Dr. Westphal. We want that in our series lead. We want someone that we can identify with, someone to connect to, and that's why, you have to have him, because if you're going to have Daniels, you need a yin to a yang. You need, if somebody's going to be hard-edged and sarcastic and, let's face it, bitchy, you need somebody who is going to soften that. And that's exactly what Flanders does in this show. I love that. I love that. So as we said, the show, because it's set in Boston, there were some crossovers, which I think is very weird. And I want to ask your opinion about this.
Yes.
There was a crossover episode in 1985 called Cheers.
Yes.
And guess where the crossover took place? At Cheers.
Yes, they went to this bar near the public gardens.
Well, but I think it's so weird that a drama does a crossover to a sitcom. And it was filmed on the Cheers set.
It was filmed on the Cheers set. They darkened the set.
It's weird.
They gave it a different look and feel, but it still was Cheers, obviously. I will say the first time I watched it, I didn't like it. It seemed too gimmicky and odd. Later years when I watched it, I thought they did a really good job of the crossover between the serious drama. Well, I say serious drama. There was a lot of humor in St. Elsewhere.
Yes.
But it was a serious drama. And just an outright sitcom. I think they did a good job melding them together.
I know. I mean, I think we're so used to crossovers now. I mean, my God, how many times, the Golden Girls went to Empty Nest and, how many different places did Friends go? But I think that It's always odd when you're changing genres, when you're going
Yes.
from when a drama is guesting on a sitcom. I'm sorry, spoiler alert here. I've never seen this episode. Did they show the fourth wall of Cheers, or did they totally disregard that? They were like, we're not going to worry about that.
They never showed the fourth wall.
It's so odd.
Yeah, they was filmed just like Cheers. Yes, it was filmed just like Cheers. Like they said, they darkened the set. Carla was their waitress. And they mentioned that they were doctors at St. Eligius. She goes, St. Elsewhere. I had my last child there. I almost died. That kind of thing.
Crazy. I love that. I love that Cliff and Norm are on there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dr. Auslander noticed Norm.
Yeah.
And Norm had been his accountant, and Dr. Auslander had to pay a fortune in back taxes because Norm had fudged the books a little bit, more than a little bit. And then Cliff came over and was trying to get free medical advice.
Of course. I gotta
So
watch
they
this
did have
episode.
this serious conversation at the same time these characters were coming in. So like I said, it was done really well. They were having these conversations and these characters came over playing themselves and then would feel like idiots and would go away. Except Carla, she never felt like an idiot. They hated her the whole time. You can imagine what Dr. Craig, William Danless, had to say about her.
I gotta watch this. All right. Yeah. So I guess we should say what the format of this episode of Going Hollywood is. 4 episodes. Brad assigned
4
me
episodes.
4 episodes, and he didn't do like I do and change his mind at the last minute and send me a text. He stuck to the 4 episodes. So the first episode we're going to talk about is from season 1. It's the 4th episode, so we're only 4 episodes in. It's called Cora and Arnie. It aired on November 23rd in 1982. The story was by Joshua Brand, John Falsey, and Neil Cuthbert. I hope I said that right, Cuthbert. And it was directed by Mark Tinker. Now, I'm curious, Brad, why did you want me to watch this episode first?
I wanted you to watch this because when the show started, it was very messy. There were too many characters.
Yeah. Where the hell did David Burney come from? And where the hell did he go?
He was never explained. And
not to Meredith Baxter either.
And who was the guy that was a psychiatrist, who was one of my favorite characters? He also vanished without.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He both of them vanished. Never came back after season 2 with no explanation.
Dr. Beale, was that his name?
Yes, Dr. Beale, yeah. And I can't think of the actor's name.
His name was G.W. Bailey.
Yes, G.W. Bailey. The show was bloated. It also was new, and it was hard to get to know the characters because there were so many of them. In addition to the top 3, it did highlight particular ones that did come to the surface and were some of the few that lasted the whole series, like Ed Begley's character and Howie Mandel's character and David Morse's character. Those stayed the whole way through. And, of course, Christina Pickles. God, I couldn't have imagined if they got rid of her.
God bless. Yeah.
But everybody else kind of spun. There were, some that you liked left, some that you didn't like at all, fortunately vanished. And I will say that the end of the series was not great because they brought in characters that you couldn't warm up to. Greenwood's character, who was in the final episode, they never did find anything for a good storyline. And I was listening to some of the other cast members, and they were like, we were so cheering him on, like, give this guy a story.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what have you been saying for 6 years about Denzel?
Right? Hello. Why don't you give the future 2-time Oscar winner a story?
Yes.
For God's sake.
So, yeah, you never warmed up to the new characters they brought in at the end.
Sounds a lot like Rhoda. Like any of these characters who came on.
Yes.
So in this, I think I know why, though, that you wanted me to do this episode.
It was the first one that was really emotional, and I'll let you talk about that.
Well, I think because we have 2 Emmy winners here. Not only Emmy winners, but 2 icons. We've got... So in the episode, a bag woman, I apologize for that incorrect term, an unhoused woman, I guess would be the best way to say it. They call her a bag woman.
Transient
rejects a life-saving treatment to care for her bewildered and mentally challenged mate. And the transient woman and her mate are played by none other than Doris Roberts and James Coco. And they both won Emmys for this episode. It's fantastic.
Well deserved, especially, I will say, James Coco.
Oh my God, it was heartbreaking. He's heartbreaking. The scene where he forgets that she's going to go get pictures taken, as she says.
Mm-hmm.
And he has that breakdown in the hallway and he's like hitting his fist and he's in the corner and he's crying. And here's the thing though, Christina Pickles comes up and she doesn't say, it's okay. Cora didn't go anywhere. She's here. She's just like, oh, it's okay. Tell him why. You're not comforting him, Christina Pickles. Come on.
Yes.
But of course he finds out. Oh, he was heartbreaking in that.
Doris Roberts' character, Cora, she is kind of a more hard, rough life kid who is street smart and kind of tough. Not real tough, but tough as far as attitude goes.
She's an unhoused Marie Barone. Let's just call it like it is.
Very true. Very true.
Yes.
Whereas James Coco's character, Arnie, has serious mental disabilities.
Yes, exactly.
He's mentally challenged.
He's so sweet. Those Emmys so well deserved. And I did you know that they were good friends in real life, Roberts and Coco? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
They appeared together on Broadway in Neil Simon's Last of the Red Hot Lovers. And when James Coco died, Doris Roberts gave a very touching tribute to him. So they were friends. What's wonderful is that they were friends in real life. And I totally pick up on that. When I see them in here, they're so fun together. They're the perfect, until she found Peter Boyle on Everybody Loves Raymond, James Coco is her perfect counterpart, I think.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier that what I loved about this series, it wasn't necessarily a medical drama. This episode, all about humanity.
Right.
It's just beautiful. It's hard. I can't imagine anybody not struggling to not tear up by the end.
Who's the other big guest star in this episode, Brad?
Oh my goodness.
Who plays
I was
the
trying to
bomb?
remember who the other guest stars were.
Are you kidding me? Who plays the bomber?
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Tim Robbins.
Thank you. I knew it started with an R. And that was an interesting thing there. He certainly was a sleazeball character.
Well, the bombing happened, I guess, a couple episodes back. And then, So one of the bombing victims is at St. Eligius, and she eventually dies. And he plays a real reprehensible sociopath, Tim Robbins does. And of course, at the end, he gets shot by the bombing victim's husband. This is a young Tim Robbins. I mean, early 20s, before any films. And he's so good because he's such prick is too good a word for him. He's just this reprehensible. Well, he's a bomber, but he has no.
He's vile.
He has no social conscience whatsoever. He's a sociopath.
Yeah, no conscience whatsoever.
So that, and if that weren't enough, in this one episode, we also have another couple who we're getting a lesson in how much it costs in 1983 to get medical care at St. Eligius.
Boy, talking about a show dating itself,
right?
What was her total bill at the end?
Oh God, I don't even $14,000? No, not $14,000.
No, it wasn't even that close.
$1,400?
She had all kinds of, I think it was $1,400. She had all kinds of tests done, stayed overnight.
$1,400 was, overnight, had all kinds of, because she kept fainting. And every time she got a test done, you went to that mimeograph. I don't think it's a mimeograph, but you know what I mean? One of those old things.
Old printers.
Which would itemize the cost of her treatments. And it ended up being $1,400. And the husband they're on vacation. The husband is apoplectic about the fact that it's $1,400 for all these tests.
Yes.
All this in less than an hour.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot in that hour. And, this episode's a good example. You mentioned that Tim Robinson's character was, the bombing happened a few episodes back. This episode was really good you had storylines about the individual characters that might go half a season. Then you'd have hospital patients that might last several episodes. And then you'd have the individual storylines like Cora and Arnie that were one-time episodes. You had it was multi-layered, and I like that about the show, which makes it feel very real. That's the way hospitals work.
Yeah, well, it's that template. It's that template that all dramas follow now. The different stories all interact. I don't want to say crossover. The multi-layered storytelling. Mm-hmm. We're so used to that now, but it wasn't that common.
No,
when St. Elsewhere did it, and the way they interweave and interlap, it's brilliant. It's a great episode. I loved it. I'm so glad you recommended it. Should we go on to our second episode?
We're going to go on to the second one, and I'm going to tell you why I chose this episode, because to me, it is one of the most brilliant moments of television. This episode, if St. Elsewhere, the series, did not exist, this would have been a beautiful movie.
Well, you weren't alone in that assessment because TV Guide, none other than TV Guide, which no shade to TV Guide, it was my Bible. So everybody out there, be quiet. TV Guide ranked this episode number 44 on its list in 1997 of 100 greatest episodes of all time. And they called it a masterwork of dramatic writing. And it is. Absolutely. The episode is a two-parter. It's called Time Heals, and it was written by Tom Fontana, John Macias, and John Tinker, and again directed by Mark Tinker. These Tinker boys had this series wrapped up, and they had Papa running the network.
And the directors in the series didn't turn over that much. I mean, you had a core group of directors that kept coming back, and I think that really helps the continuity of a series. Sets the tone, keeps it right.
Well, that's pretty much, the fact that we don't have that now is totally... It always used to be that way. I mean, what we say about Mary Tyler Moore, Jay Sandrich, primary director, All in the Family, John Rich, primary director, Friends, James Burrows. I'm sorry, Cheers, James Burrows, and Friends, actually, primary director. So that was very important because it set a level of continuity. When you have these directors, these guest directors coming in, guest writers too, really, coming in and directing episodes, it's very difficult to keep the continuity of a long-running series. But hey, shows today rarely run more than 3 seasons, so I'm sure they think, who the hell cares? Bring them in. You know what I mean? It's just... It's very important. And yeah, Mark Tinker directed all of these episodes that we're talking about, and he directed the majority of the episodes. So I think it's wonderful. And this is such a great episode because in this episode, did I say it originally aired February 19th and 20th, 1986? It is a two-parter. In this episode, it fleshes out the 50-year history of St. Eligius because they're having the 50th anniversary celebration. So it's not just one flashback, though. It's a series of flashbacks. And each flashback is presented in a different style. So if we're in the 30s, it's in black and white. When we're in the 40s, it's in kind of like muted colors and pastels.
Almost a sepia tone, but a little...
Yes. In the 60s, it's bright colors, and of course it's regular colors for the current day. And I also think what else is interesting is how these characters, some of the characters in the episode, obviously they don't go from the 30s to the 80s, but for instance, Kate Nelligan, Brian Kerwin have a storyline that takes place in the 60s, and then they have a storyline that takes place in the current era, and they're the same characters. They're just older.
You see how families in that community were tied to the hospital. Even though it was probably a small part in their lives as far as day-to-day living, you saw from the hospital standpoint, these people, families coming and going throughout the years. And I want to say one thing that I just really love about this episode. The characters played themselves over the year. The only one that was different was Dr. Auslander, played by, I've drawn a blank.
Because you can't, how are you gonna? You can't age down. God bless him, Norman Lloyd.
His character started in 1935, so obviously you can't age down him for down 50 years.
They did him. They did him in the 60s, though. I like when they did him in the 60s.
And they did William Daniels and Ed Flanders. I mean, when they showed the 1950s, these guys were probably supposed to be 25 years old, and they dyed their hair. And you know what I loved about it? Yes, they looked ridiculous. But you knew why. Okay, they're supposed to be in their 20s when they're just starting out.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I can live with that. And you moved on. And like Dr. Auslander, the character, there was no way to de-age him that much. So they brought in a different character. Nowadays, they use CGI to de-age people. Like Michael Douglas in Ant-Man. Or, we've seen it a lot lately. What happens is you're like, wow, they did a good job. But the whole time you kind of lost the story because you're watching it to see where did they screw up and where did they get it right.
Exactly.
You didn't do that. Like I said, oh my gosh, look how ridiculous they look. They have black hair and they're supposed to be in their 20s. And then you move on because you understand why.
Well, yes. And note to Hollywood, it's a hell of a lot cheaper just to have your audience suspend their disbelief and say, I'm watching, obviously, a film or a TV show, so I'm going to ignore the fact that they're not really in their 20s and enjoy the story.
Yes.
Oy, what is wrong with these filmmakers?
We're smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah, I know, but that
if it's too old, you bring a different actor in.
Exactly.
And if you want to fudge it a little bit, like a 60-year-old man playing in his 20s, okay, we can deal with that.
Because what's important is the story. It's not important the technical tricks that you went through to make Tom Cruise look like he's not 60. Don't get me started. Anyway, I love this episode for so many reasons. I love the fact that we get the backstory. I love backstories. And it's, the hospital's founding by Dr. Joseph McCabe, played by the wonderful, I say wonderful so much, played by the sublime Edward Herrmann. Do you know who Edward Herrmann is? You've seen him before, right? I mean,
oh my God, I've seen him before. And I will say, if there was ever a priest that you couldn't help but love, it was Father McCabe.
Edward Herrmann very famously played FDR many times, actually. He's in Big Business, one of my favorite Bette Midler movies. He's in a lot of stuff. He was a brilliant actor, and he did a kick-ass Irish accent. It was so good. It was sublime. He's a brilliant actor. I loved him in this. It was just such a treat to see him because I knew nothing about this episode. And to see him there, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. It's got Edward Herrmann in it. This episode also features the arrivals of Dr. Aushlander, who we just said is not Norman Lloyd. It's actually another actor playing him because he's supposed to be in his 20s. And and then it kind of flashes forward and we have the early struggles of Dr. Craig and we have the death of Dr. Westfall's wife. And I got to tell you, when Anita Gillette said, I'm going to go out and get the ice cream, I knew she was a goner. I'll tell you right now. I'm like, uh-oh. Nobody purposely goes out to get ice cream someone forgot unless they're going to end up dead. It's just such a red flag. Don't go get the Baskin Robbins. Don't do it. Too bad, Anita Gillette. You did it. She was a goner.
I will say that is one criticism I have of that, is they made that couple so lovey-dovey.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was it was unrealistic, and you knew she was going to die.
Well, that's
my one criticism. I thought they really paired together. They had great chemistry as a couple.
They did.
And I was very happy seeing that he was he was a lovable sad sack throughout the series. To see him with his wife and before things in his life started really going downhill, that was really good to see. But,
the fact that they were lovey-dovey and the fact that she was going out for ice cream was a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Get it? Dead giveaway. Anyway.
Yes.
I also love the fact that we get to see his son as a child because we all know, well, we'll get to it, but we all know what a pivotal role the Westfall child plays at the end of the series. But anyway, we'll get to it. Here, this was there were a couple of very cute things in this episode, and St. Elsewhere did this a lot. They were always doing these fun insider references, jokes. They would page characters from TV shows over the PA system, and unless you really knew what was happening, characters from other shows too, from MASH, from the one episode, character was watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So yeah, very, very funny. But did you notice that in this episode, there are 3 surgeons called out? That Dr. Craig calls out, and they are Dr. Burns, Dr. Brooks, and Dr. Weinberger. Did you notice?
No, I didn't catch that one.
It's Alan Burns, James L. Brooks, and Ed Weinberger from the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
They kind of got this whole idea, I think, from MASH with the movie. I was not a fan of the movie, but they did have a lot of things. If you watch the movie and then go back and listen to the announcements on the speaker, there's a lot of funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
And this show did that with their speakers. For example, in one episode, they paged Dr. Gwyneth Paltrow.
She was a little kid.
I mentioned that to somebody, and they're like, why would they do that? She wasn't even a celebrity. I said, because her dad ran the show.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Dad's Paltrow. Here's another thing this is the one problem I have with this episode, is the storyline of Dr. Morrison. Dr. Morrison's son gets kidnapped.
Out of nowhere,
and he is strangely unconcerned about the disappearance of his son. His son he sees a stranger take his son into an elevator and he disappears. And he spends the rest of the episode wondering where his son is, but spending most of the time by his patient. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? If that was my son, I wouldn't be at St. Elsewhere hanging out to see what this guy's... I'm sorry, Hippocratic Oath and all. I'd be all over that state looking for my son. So I have to be perfectly honest, I always have problems with that character. I have to admit.
He is probably the least liked character on the entire series. And it's really interesting that he was kept on. I don't mind David Morse as the actor. I don't like his character. I wanted in the 6 years to please give this man one good day. For God's sake, they just kept beating him up and beating him up and beating him up and kept giving him these attitudes. And I'm just like, give this guy a good day or just kill him off because I can't take this man's struggle. And he didn't really keep it that interesting.
He's such a nudge. I think he deserves all the all the bad things that happened to him. I find him so annoying. I really do. And I was just like, it's funny because I was watching it and I watched the last episode and I was surprised to see him because somewhere in my head I thought something tragic did happen to him, like really tragic, like he fell down an elevator shaft, like Rosalind on LA Law. I thought that's what happened to him. I thought it was, but no, he was still there at the last episode. So I was like, oh, I guess he did survive. All right, go ahead, Dr. Morrison. Yeah, that was very strange to me.
And it served no purpose in that episode. It was a standalone. Why would you have
It made no sense.
If you're going to have a standalone, have it pivotal to the story, and it added nothing.
The kids,
please get this over with. I want to get back to the good stuff.
Yeah, and the happy ending the kids found at the end, which thank God, happy for that. Although it is fiction, people, so let's not get too.
And it's never explained.
Never explained what happens.
Never questioned. It's just like, oh, here he is walking in with somebody in the hospital.
That's it. Not what happened to him. Nothing.
The only part that was really difficult in that, and actually was legitimate, as much as I hated that storyline, was when he was taken to the morgue because they found a dead boy and they thought it was him.
That was horrible.
And him having to look at the body and then the gasp that he had when he realized it wasn't his son.
But, okay, is it just me or did Dr. Westfall seem to be smiling when he said the police want to see you? Dr. Westfall seemed a little too... I was like, oh, they found his son alive. And then we come to a commercial, we come back, and they're in the morgue. I'm like, wait a minute, what? What the...
Yeah,
what?
Dr. Westfall, the most caring, compassionate character, said it to him in a way that you thought, oh, great, the little boy's going to be sitting in the police station waiting for his daddy. And
eating an ice cream cone, like Fred Mertz
They did
said.
that so it would be a surprise, but it just was totally out of character.
It's very strange, the look on Dr. Westfall's face. I don't know. There was some continuity problems. Okay, though, I do have to say the one thing, and it's 1986. Okay, I get it. God bless. Okay, 86. But Kate Mulgrew and Brian Kerwin's son is gay. Mm-hmm. And of course, when it's revealed, the big reveal is Kate Mulgrew says, he's a homosexual. Mm-hmm. And you just gotta go, okay, it's 1986. Okay, yes, he's a homosexual. I just find that so, and that's why Brian Kerwin's not talking to his son, because he's a homosexual. Maybe he's wearing my makeup, or maybe he's wearing your makeup. He says to Kate. It's just like, ugh. But it was 86, so at least
that would have been my dad.
There was gay representation. There was homosexual representation in this show, so you got to give it to that. And the kid wasn't dying of AIDS, so there you go.
It's like Soap. Billy Crystal's character was horribly done, but everybody was at least happy that we had a gay primary character. And so much of it was a good storyline.
Yeah. I think earlier I said Kate Nelligan, and I meant Kate Mulgrew. I was in Prince of Tides mode, so I apologize for that.
I knew who you meant. Yeah, and I love that their storyline carried over for all... They did a 1935 storyline as well. Yeah, the grandfather was in 35, and so their whole family, you saw different generations of their family at the hospital, and in the end, it all tied together.
It was really interesting. This was a great episode.
It was a great episode because you learned a lot about the hospital. A reminder of how the series started. When it started, it was a city hospital, and you knew that it had originally been a Catholic hospital because there were still statues of Mary there and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we knew that it used to be a Catholic hospital. It was a city hospital. It had run down. And what you learn is that throughout the entire series, you learn that, okay, it was this hospital was built in 1935 by the Catholic Church. At some point, it was sold to the city of Boston and became a city hospital. And then later in the series, it was bought by the Ecunema Corporation, which later had to be changed to Weigart because Humana wanted to sue them.
Too close to Humana, yeah,
Humana wanted to sue them, and so they never explained the name change. Just all of a sudden, they were no longer Ecumena, they were Weigart. So because that was a period when Humana was buying up old dying hospitals and turning them into profit facilities. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, when they wanted to close it down, the Catholic Church buys it back again, which I'm very happy about because the show. at the end of the 5th season, they were tearing it down because they thought that was going to be the end of the series, and I'm really glad that didn't happen because I like to know that the hospital continued.
Which leads us to our last episode called, fittingly, The Last One. Story by Tom Fontana. I sound like I'm reading nominations for an award show. Story by Tom Fontana, Channing Gibson, and John Tinker. Teleplay by Bruce Paltrow and Mark Tinker. Directed by Mark Tinker, which aired originally on May 25th, 1988. And it is indeed a very, very, very famous final episode, which we will talk about. But so you just said that the show was going to end in the 5th year, and they got a last minute reprise for one more season. And what happened in the 5th season, that the hospital was going to be demolished, but it wasn't. It was saved from being demolished because it was purchased by this new company. Yeah. And that's why Dr. Westfall mooned. That was going to be his new boss, and he moons him. He's like, I'm out of here. So he was gone for most of this season, correct?
Yes. Because he didn't want to work for a hospital corporation that was all about profit and not about people.
So Weingart sells the hospital back to the Boston Diocese. And as happens in last episodes, we talked about this in our Mary Tyler Moore episode, Mary set the standard, things get wrapped up. Bonnie Bartlett's character Ellen is offered a job in Cleveland. And William Daniels is horrified by the idea. I guess they had split up, they'd separated, and they just got back together again.
She had an affair with the guy that Westfall mooned.
Oh, well, there you go. So he's horrified to go to Cleveland with her, but he realizes this is what he has to do. He's her husband. And so, and Howie Mandel is also leaving. This is his last day as a resident. So everybody's leaving, everybody's departing, except for Westfall. Westfall comes back to run the hospital once it's resold to the Boston Diocese. What do you want to talk about with this episode? Because, of course, we've got the big thing at the end, which is the big, big elephant in the room about this whole series, really, and about this episode in particular. But what would you like to talk about with this episode?
I loved and hated this episode. I didn't think it was a great episode written. There was a lot of fun stuff in it. First of all, let me say about the final episode thing. I hated that everybody was leaving. Granted, we had the original characters that were brought in as residents. So I can accept that they were finally graduating and moving on. I really thought Howie Mandel's character, because I'd forgotten all this, I thought Howie Mandel's character was going to say, I'm going to stay here. Because they do that. Some doctors don't move on to other hospitals.
True.
Also, since all the residents were leaving, why did we have to have Dr. Mark Craig leave too, other than the fact that we got to see that he was, for the first time, not totally self-centered and was thinking about his wife.
Yeah.
That could have been done earlier. Like before, I think it was the episode before this, but I wish they had done it a few episodes before then, they had Denzel's character move to the South with I think they were engaged. So I would like to have seen more of a transition out rather than like Alice, everybody had something to do, before the episode ended. It just was too
pat
format. Yeah. It was the format that final episodes have, and I really expected a lot more from the series to do that. But like the rest of that final season, it wasn't the best. Now, what I loved about it is all the shout-outs, and I know that your one really stood out for you, all the shout-outs to other shows' final episodes.
What do you mean, the Mary Tyler Moore show shout-out?
Well, there was the Mary Tyler Moore show, which was the most obvious.
Yes, of course.
There was also
Kleenex Shuffle.
The Dr. Kildare, or not Dr. Kildare, Kimball, The Fugitive.
Yes. There was
The Fugitive. It wasn't the final episode of MASH, but it was the final episode that had Henry Blake.
Yeah.
In MASH. There was a shout out to that. I was told there's a shout out to Dallas. I could never find it, but my understanding was there was one about that too. So I thought that was really well done and done cute. I think the Mary Tyler Moore one might have been a little too on the nose.
Yeah, just a bit.
Especially when Howie said we should all sing It's a Long, Long Way to Tipperary. I think ruined that whole little bit.
Well, I think it's okay, though. I think, it's because, that show was it wasn't that long ago that Mary Tyler Moore show was on. And this is MTM production. So, I mean, come on. The Tinkers are running the show here. They're going to give a shout out to the parent ship, the mothership. They're going to give a shout out to the mothership.
And I want to give an explanation briefly, the other ones. First of all, the MASH reference. Basically, in the morgue, there is a body on the slab, and his name is Henry. I don't think it's mentioned that his name is Henry, and he was killed in a helicopter accident. Yeah. Which is the way Henry Blake died in MASH.
Mm-hmm.
Now, MASH has been referenced in the show a few times, including Mark Craig, played by William Daniels. One episode said that he served with B.J. Honeycutt in Korea. But there's a lot of those. We're going to talk about all that stuff.
There's a lot.
But so there's that one. And then, of course, the fugitive, the time with that is there is a man with one arm running throughout the hospital, and one of the orderlies is chasing him.
Trying to catch him, yes.
Trying to catch him. And in the end...
Trying to catch the one-armed man.
Yeah, and at the end of the end... Christina Pickles' character says, well, I'm glad we finally have you. Dr. Kimball's been looking everywhere for you.
I screamed. I thought that was so great. I love that. Well, you know what I love about this episode? Besides all those little shout outs, there were other really cute touches. For instance, the opera diva who lost her voice.
Oh, yeah.
And magically gets it back at the end of the episode. And what does that mean? It means it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Ooh, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, this is the end, folks. This is the end. I thought that was very cute. Here's something that wasn't so cute, but was probably the longest death in this history of television, is Dr. Auschwitz finally died. He was going to die the first year, right? He was in remission for 5 years. And then boom, suddenly came back. I love that scene. I love the fact that the phone keeps ringing and people can't figure out why the phone keeps ringing, but nobody's on the other end. And then the orderly, he's not an orderly anymore. He was an orderly, but then the doctor goes to Dr. Auschwitz's office and it's him on the receiver. That's why the phone keeps ringing. He's dead. So yes, Norman Lloyd checks out of St. Eligius in this episode, which leads us to what happens at the end, which is really what this show is known for. But you have something else to say?
Before we transition, I want to bring up the Norman Lloyd thing. There's something about that I hated and something about that I loved. Mm-hmm. What I hated about it is that, again, it was the final episode. Okay, have him die 4 or 5 episodes before that. They did that with Axelrod, who was played by the guy who played Flounder on Animal House.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Okay, if you think of a character, you think the David Morse character was treated, Stephen First. Yes. If you think the David Morse character was treated poorly, oh my God, they beat up on that poor guy, especially Denzel. Denzel was not kind to this guy. And they had him die quite a few episodes before then of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. I wish they had done that with Dr. Auslander, so we didn't have all that stuff going on in the final episode. That bothered me. What I did love about it is it was real life. Characters just die.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have this drawn out emotional thing. Even after he died, people went on about their lives. It was perfect because, as you said, the phone kept ringing. Why is the damn phone ringing? And Christina Pickles' character is going crazy because somebody's playing with the phone.
Right.
And then we just had Luther walk in and see the dead body, and that was it. That's what happens in life.
That is what happens in life. But then, what really happens?
Then we have the final.
Then what really happened? So Dr. Westfall, Tommy, his son Tommy, who is autistic, are in Dr. Auschlander's office. Mm-hmm. And it's in Boston, so the snow is falling outside. And we go to a shot of St. Eligius with the snow falling, but it's a weird shot because it seems to be shaking, like it's in an earthquake. Mm-hmm. But it's not, is it, Brad? What exactly is happening?
It is Tommy looking into a snow globe, which they really don't show you that it's St. Elsewhere in that snow globe in the beginning.
Not until the very last shot, no.
Not until the very last shot, but there's this shake, and the next thing you know, we're in this strange apartment, with Norman Lloyd reading a newspaper and Tommy looking into a snow globe.
But wait a minute, didn't Norman Lloyd just die? Didn't Dr. Auslander just die, Brad?
He did. What is this weird twist?
But then who comes in the door? Who comes in the door?
It is construction worker Westfall. Donald Westfall, the construction worker, comes home to see how his father is taking care of his son.
So are you telling me that this previous 6 years has just been a dream of an autistic child with a snow globe?
Well, that certainly is what it's hinted at, because they bring up like all he does every day is sit on the floor and doesn't say anything and just stares into that toy.
Oh,
and
God.
Then they zoom in on the snow globe, and there is St. Elsewhere.
So what Donald says to Dr. Air quotes, Dr. Aushlander, who's now his father, apparently.
Yes.
I don't understand this autism thing, Pop. Here's my son. I talk to him. I don't even know if he can hear me because he sits there all day long in his own world, staring at that toy. What is he thinking about?
Yeah.
He's thinking about a hospital in Boston and all the things that have gone on in the past 6 years.
Well, apparently that's what they're implying at the end. And the audience was real mixed in this. I think most of the audience was outraged.
Really?
And then there were those that thought it was absolutely brilliant. Where do you think I stand on that?
I think you thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was brilliant. As I said earlier, I do like to think that St. Elsewhere is still there, and it is. Mm-hmm. To me, I just say, you know what? The last 5 minutes of the final episode, the writers were having a good time, and God bless them. I'm glad they did, because they did a damn good job.
It's right up there with the Newhart finale. With
yes.
Suzanne Plachette being in, Newhart's bed for the second series. It's a brilliant last little bit. I think it's brilliant. And here's what I think is brilliant about it. So what we have here is we have a fiction within a fiction. I mean, this is so crazy. It's crazy to try to think about the levels of unreality here, because first of all, we're watching a TV show. That's a fiction. And now we're just finding out that the story we've been seeing, which we've invested in for the past 6 years, is also a fiction. But not only that, with all the references to other TV shows that are in St. Elsewhere, it kind of beautifully comes together. It kind of dovetails because this kid obviously watches a lot of TV. So naturally, he's going to have a surgeon who's Dr. Brooks or Dr. Weinberger. He's going to have MASH references. It is actually it's not kind of genius. It is genius. I really think it's genius.
There are websites and videos dedicated to the Tommy Westphal universe.
Yes.
If St. Elsewhere wasn't real, there are hundreds of shows tied to this that are not real. And some examples are Mary Tyler Moore's reference. So therefore, Mary Tyler Moore and anything that branched off of Mary Tyler Moore never happened. Cheers is obviously restaurant reference. So anything that was connected to what was that show with the Hot Brothers? Anyway, the pilots.
Wings.
Wings. So that didn't exist. And other shows that they were connected with. These characters appeared on other TV shows playing themselves very quickly, or other TV shows were referenced. One of the orderlies was a character on the TV series about basketball. The White Shadow, is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Ken Howard, yes.
Well, you find out that he was actually that character on that series.
Yeah. And
he sees a person, he goes, "Oh, Flounder," or Slommy. The guy, one of the other characters was Slommy. And guys, I don't know what you're talking about. So if you say all the shows that are connected, this one didn't exist. There are hundreds of shows that never existed ever.
What a genius!
I think it's wonderful that people took the time. I'm like, I don't know where they had the time to do that, but I think it's wonderful and it's hysterical. And if people don't like it, some people don't like it because they're like, you took 6 years of our lives and now you're telling us it didn't happen. Well, you know what? Out of 6 years, it's 5 minutes. Just wipe it from your brain and get on with your life. Craig from the LA Times was angry. I read his critique on it the other day, and I'm like, even you? He felt like it was he felt like they ripped the rug out from viewers.
So, but wait a minute, though. Does that mean that then the future appearances by some of these characters in shows like Homicide or in Scrubs is just Tommy Westphal dreaming some more? So we all just live in Tommy Westphal's world.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. In fact, there's actually another drama. In Oz.
Yeah.
It's brought up in Oz that somebody went to St. Eligius or something like that. And there's some other TV shows that where they reference that a character went to St. Eligius Hospital. So people say dozens. There's actually hundreds. If you want to spend a lot of deep dive into these sites.
I think it's amazing. I guess I
think it was brilliant. I thought when I watched it, I sat there with my mouth open. I'm like, oh my God, that is so smart.
No,
it didn't even dawn on me to be angry.
It's just genius. And the fact that we don't really understand it until the very last shot when he puts the snow globe down and then the camera goes in and we see it's St. Eligius and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, because you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I know, it's crazy. And all these other shows are affected by this. It's very, very funny. I guess the best thing about that is it means that Joe didn't really leave Rhoda. Never really happened. They're still together in Tommy Westfall's mind.
One of my favorites, and I don't know if you ever saw this episode, it was an episode that had Betty White as a guest star.
St. Elsewhere?
Yes, on St. Elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember Jack something, the guy that played Mr. Carlin. Okay, Actually, these are two separate ones. The guy who played Mr. Carlin on the Bob Newhart show.
Right.
He is in the psych
Jack
ward.
Riley. Yeah.
Jack Riley. He is in the psych ward with the other guy that was the real timid guy with the curly, shaggy hair. They're both in the psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
Playing just like they did on the Bob Newhart show. The Mr. Carlin character, Jack Riley, is just obnoxious and snide. And he refers to the reason he's there because of the crazy doctor he had in Chicago. and there's another episode. It may have been the same one. I don't think so, though. I could be wrong. There was another episode where a character thought he was Mary Tyler Moore. I'm sorry. He thought he was Mary Richards.
Yes.
And Betty White is a character. She has some kind of executive role. She's there visiting the hospital for something. I don't remember what it was. But he sees her and he goes, Sue Ann Niven.
Oh, my God.
And she says, you obviously have me mistaken for someone else.
I love that kind of stuff. It's
they
very funny.
Played that game all the time on that.
You know
series.
what? Because but this is so early. That kind of stuff happens on shows all the time now.
Yes.
You know, and people don't. It's just and St. Elsewhere did it first. Maybe not the exact first, but pretty damn close. I mean, this kind of stuff didn't happen.
It was early.
TV shows existed in their own realities. They did not usually, unless they were, All in the Family and the Jeffersons and Maude. That's a different story. I'm not talking about spinoffs and things. I'm talking about, it was very rare for a TV show which was not the same company or the same producer or produced by the same production company to have another TV show character. Archie Bunker could watch things on television. Maude watched the Mary Tyler Moore show. She, shout out to Mary Richards. That's different. I'm talking about when characters would cross over and exist and do that kind of weird meta thing, which I think is kind of brilliant. I think that's wonderful. I got to tell you though, because there was an episode of the Lucy. Here's our Lucy moment. Had to have one. There's an episode of the Lucy Show in which William Frawley made his final appearance before he died, and he plays a stable hand. And Lucy's looking at racehorses with the Countess, and he walks in and he yells for somebody, and he walks away. And Lucy looks at him and says, "He reminds me of someone I used to know." Now, that's a brilliant bit. It's 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, it breaks the fourth wall, but please, it was a Lucy show. Who cares? It was still very funny. But that's unusual, and I think that St. Elsewhere was one of the first and did it brilliantly. But that's not the last thing about this episode, Brad. There's one more thing. About it.
Poor Mimsy.
R.I.P. Mimsy. Mimsy. Tell people who Mimsy is, Brad. Because you didn't know when we talked about Mary Tyler Moore.
Yes. Mimsy is the MTM kitty cat that looks like the MGM lion who at the end of MTM episodes goes, meow.
Meow.
And what did Mimsy do throughout the entire series of St. Elsewhere?
She was in Scrubs.
Yep.
She goes, meow.
She meowed through her Scrubs. But they did something different on the final episode. So sad. Mimsy flatlined.
Mimsy flatlines. That's so sad. It's just so cruel.
And the sad thing is, Mimsy really died not long after that.
She did. But she was 20 years old. God bless that cat. She started back in the 70s with Mary Richards leaving Roseburg, and here she is all the way in Boston at St. Eligius.
And of all the places for poor Mimsy to die.
Now we have to give a warning though to people who watch this show on Hulu. That ending isn't in there because I knew about this ending with Mimsy flatlining, and when I rewatched these episodes for this podcast, I couldn't wait, and it's not. It's still Mimsy and Scrubs. So for some reason they took that out. I don't know why because it's kind of a brilliant thing. But yeah,
and there were other. I'm not going to get into them because they weren't significant to the show, but there were other lines that I noticed were missing. Like, wait a minute, somebody said something there, and had I not been so loyal to the show, I wouldn't have caught it. So it didn't change the storyline. But that Mimsy thing was a great touch, and why they would cut that out, I don't get.
Yeah, I think that I don't know why they do. Hulu, who knows? Hulu's. So I think I want to say about this episode, the last one. It brought in 22.5 million viewers, ranking 7th out of 68 programs that week. So you go St. Elsewhere, finally cracking the top 10 for your last episode. And it ranks as the most watched episode of this entire series. And again, TV Guide's ranking in 2011 of the most unforgettable last episodes ever. This was number 12. Now, this was 2011, so, we've had more and last episodes. But I'm sorry, I don't think the last episode of Modern Family is going to budge the episode of St. Elsewhere. I mean, so I think they're pretty secure on number 12 for brilliant last episodes. Unforgettable.
Yeah, definitely unforgettable. The show will always, in fact, after watching these 4 episodes, I asked Maurice, I said, do you want to watch these with me? He goes, no, we started watching the series for the first time for me and we never finished it. So no, I'm not going to pick 4 random episodes and watch it, which is fine because that means we'll eventually get back to watching it again because I would love to see it.
Tell him not to listen to this podcast episode.
No, I'm definitely not going to. He knows, everybody in the world I think knows about the snow globe editing, even if they never.
Yeah. Firsts. All kinds of firsts.
Yeah. So.
Well, is there anything more? What more do we want to say about St. Elsewhere, Brad, that we haven't covered?
I could go on and on about each individual character because there were some I loved, some I hated, some I just hated, but not in a good way. Ed Begley Jr.'s character, I absolutely despise the first run. I watch it now and I have a warm spot for him, but his character was supposed to be unlikable, and they did a good job for me.
I love Ed Begley because I know how close he was to Carrie Fisher, so that's kind of nice. That's when I see Ed Begley. I'm like,
yeah, he's great, and he turned out to be great. I think when I watch him now, I really liked his character.
Yeah, that's great.
And he actually was supposed to be a walk-on character also. They kind of expanded his character as well. So no, other than, if you've never seen this, and I'm sorry we gave a lot away if you've never seen it, but you should know better. If you haven't seen this or you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch it. It's one of those shows that, there's occasional references to that time, but for the most part, it's timeless. Because it's all about human emotion and people doing the best they can under bad circumstances.
Yeah, and I think it's important because in so many ways it was first of so many things. We're so used to so many things now because shows like St. Elsewhere did it first and became part of the became part of every show afterwards. So it's an important series. Thank you for suggesting it. I really enjoyed going back and revisiting it and learning more about it because, as I said, it really isn't in my immediate grasp of knowledge for some reason of my 80s shows. Because like I said, I was in college and high school. I was doing other things. But I'm glad I went back.
Oh, I do want to give you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not related to St. Elsewhere, but it's something I heard yesterday. I learned yesterday. You're always saying that studio executives don't know anything.
Right. Pretty true.
I found a real life example of that. I've never seen the series, but Police Squad, the TV series.
Yeah.
They spun off eventually The Naked Gun. The Zucker brothers and Abrams wanted to do something similar to that, and they ended up making it the same storyline. The Naked Gun went on to make billions of dollars. Police Squad series, which was only 6 episodes, and I can't say whether it was good or bad because I've never seen a single episode of it. Mm-hmm. But the reason it was only 6 episodes is the head of ABC said, this show's not going to make it. People have to pay attention to get the jokes. What?
It's up there with Mike Dan programming Mary after Hee Haw. Yeah, there you go. Way to go, executives. Way to go.
They have to pay attention. It's never going to make it. I thought of you the minute I heard that. So yeah, that's it.
What more do we want to say about the show or the podcast?
Well, the thing I'm going to say about the podcast is welcome if this is your first time listening or you're new to us, and please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. If you've been listening to us for a while, we beg and plead, and if you don't do it, you're a jerk. No, I'm kidding. We all have busy lives, but if you could please take the time to rate and review us. It only takes a minute, and we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're not characters in some snow globe either. We're out there making it work every day, so.
We're real.
Well, Brad, I guess then there's only one thing left to say, but I don't want to say it. So let's not say goodbye. Let's just say au revoir.
Well, before I flatline, no, let's say goodbye.
Meow.
That's all, folks.